Okay, our host is here. Let me.
What's that for?
Okay. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can unmute yourself now.
Hi,
Okay,
can you hear me?
it's live now.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. You're all welcome to this event, the Penmen Bootcamp Technical Writing event. And our host is here in person of Edidiong Asikpo. We all know her, and we're so glad to have her here. We're so excited to have you here, ma. Not any waste of time. Let me just tell you a little bit of her background. She's a writer. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I want to be sure if everybody can hear me.
Can hear you.
Okay, yeah, she's a writer, she's a speaker. She was once a developer advocate at Hashnode and now at Ambassadors Lab. Please, a round of applause for Edidiong Asikpo. We are so happy to have you here. Yeah. I don't know if you can unmute yourself. I'm giving you permission to.
Yeah, sure. So I've actually been here for quite some time, actually. And I could hear you say waiting for the host, which got me confused because I was here. I tried sending you a DM, but it seems you didn't get it. All right, cool.
We can't hear you.
Oh, that's interesting. Can anybody hear me now?
I can hear you.
I hear you, Rafi.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yeah, we're hearing you clearly. We're hearing you clearly.
Okay, thank you. So maybe it's
okay. I can't.
Maybe it's from his end, I think.
Yeah, network issues on his end.
Yeah, because I bet he didn't hear me when I was saying that I was here. All right, cool. So thank you everyone for joining. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Just give me a second. All right, let me know when you can see my screen, please. And if you can't hear me at any point, also let me know because network is like really crazy at this point.
We're seeing the screen now. See the screen.
All right, cool. Let me also send the link to the slides as well, in case anybody wants it after this call. All right, thank you so much for joining the call. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope that you benefit from this talk. If you have any question, you could just add it to, just drop it on the chat. I usually love answering questions after I'm done with my session. So if you have any questions, you can either put it down on your note somewhere or drop it in the chat, and I'll be happy to respond to as many questions as I can. Yeah, so writing is a great way to consolidate knowledge, right? And even though technical writing is kind of centered around helping people understand something or sharing knowledge with the community, it's also a really great way to learn, like understand things a lot better, and also show your potential employer, for instance, that you are really good at a particular language or framework or whatever it is that you're currently doing. So for instance, if I'm someone who works with React.js and I'm constantly writing articles about React for over some time, right? And I try to apply for a job that requires, I'm trying to apply for a React.js job, for instance, yeah. When the employer looks at my blog and sees that I've written a couple of articles over the years, he would feel like oh, hey, this girl actually knows what she's doing, right? Because, I mean, she didn't copy this content from everywhere to mix it into an article. She actually knows what she's doing well enough to be able to write it to other people. So that's pretty much what writing is about generally. It's not just about sharing knowledge with other people. It's also a way for you to learn something and become better. So in this talk, I'm going to explain what technical writing is, share the different skills you need to become one, and how you could actually get started if you decide to start writing. Okay. Just done. My name is Edidiong Asikpo. I currently work as a developer advocate at Ambassador Labs, which is a Kubernetes-focused company for developers. I also contribute to Vlc Media Player as a technical writer. It's an open source organization, and I contribute to them through writing. Before we start, I think one important thing that is always great to know is what we're talking about. What is technical writing? And before I wrote this definition, I actually Googled a lot of things, so many things, right? Because I was trying to understand what exactly is technical writing, how do people define it, or what's the best way to understand what it means, right? So I did lots and lots of Googling. I saw different definitions, but this one right here really stood out for me. This is a definition by a dictionary named Grammar. It defines technical writing as a type of writing where the author is writing about a particular subject that requires direction, instruction, or explanation. I bet you already know that there are different types of writing, right? There's prose, fiction, and the rest of them. And there's writing itself in a general sense. But then technical writing is, so let's say I want to talk about this book. I don't know if anybody, can you see this book? Can someone please turn on his or her mic and let me know?
Yes, Atomic Habits.
Yes, Atomic Habits.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Right, so let's say I want to write a technical article about this book. I would probably say, okay, hey, this book is a great book, right? And then I'll also explain why I think that book is a great book. So technical writing is not just me telling you, hey, this book is great, but then it's me saying, this book is great. This is why I think the book is great. And I'm most likely also directing you on how to read the book to achieve it, how to read the book to understand it in the best way, right? But then writing generally, on the other hand, is just me saying, my guy, this book go well, or maybe this book is very, very good, right? But then technical writing is me giving you direction, me giving you instructions, or explaining why I think something is good or why something is bad. I mean, it's almost like how people always come out to say, oh, hey, I think Vue.js is terrible. Saying Vue.js is terrible is you writing, but creating a technical article about why you think Vue.js is terrible is technical writing, because you're literally saying, hey, this is why I think this thing is terrible. I tried to do this, I tried to do that. I reached this particular location or whatever, and it didn't work out. And this is why I think Vue.js is terrible. I'm not saying Vue.js is terrible. I'm just giving an example of what writing is and what technical writing is. So it's an efficient and clear way to explain something and how it works. Like I said, again, it's not just explaining something, but also explaining how that thing works. Oh, what was on my slide? All right, cool. So there's been, over the years, I've noticed that people don't start writing because they think they're not born with the skill of writing, or there's this misconception that, oh, hey, you have to be a great writer, or you have to be born with the skill of writing to be a great writer. So I was curious about this, right? Are writers actually born, or are writers made? Do you think you are not good at writing because you were not born with the skill of writing? Or do you think you're not good at writing because you've not actually tried to write, right? And I think this is something that affects people in a lot of places, right? So it's from coding. You probably try to code one time or two times and then it doesn't work out. And you suddenly say, this code will not be for me, or I'm not good at coding, it's not for me, or maybe JavaScript is not for me, Python is for me, or whatever, right? So people have these perceptions, and I decided to make a tweet about this sometime in 2020, and I was like, hey, do you think writers are born or made? And in the next slides, I'll show you different thoughts that people shared and what they think about writers. But before I do that, I'd love to know what you think. So this is me asking you, do you think writers are born or made? So you could just help me drop a message in the chat. If you think they are born, just type born. If you think they are made, just type in made. So just give us like 3 minutes to do that before I go ahead. So do you think writers are born? I mean, you can think that it's both, right? You can think that they are both born and made, whatever you want to think. It's absolutely your opinion. And we'll try to cover what that means. So please let me know. Awesome. I'm seeing really interesting thoughts. Some people think they are made, others think they are born, others think they are both born and made as well. Okay, interesting. So 1 more minute. If you want to share what you think, please go ahead and do that now. Stop it in 1 minute. Okay, they are natural writers, but really good writers train them. Interesting. All right, cool. We have like a few more seconds to go before. Awesome. Okay, nothing is born, everything is made. That's interesting. Made because developing the skills is key. All right, cool. Thank you so much for sharing your responses. That was really, really good to read. All right, cool. So let's try to talk about this and analyze it to see what the actual thing is. So like I mentioned, I did make this tweet and then I wanted to see what people would think. And here's what some people thought, right? So someone said, this is Blessing Raibu. She said, I think writers are both born and made. Writing is a skill and can be developed by anyone over time. Writing also comes naturally to certain people. So she doesn't specifically agree on one thing. She's not on the, oh, hey, writers are made side or on the writers are born side. She thinks writers are both born and made. Right? So she's like, yeah, it's like writing is like a skill. Oh, sorry about the dog. Writing is like a skill, like every other skill, and you have to like develop it over time. And then there's also people who are just naturally gifted with the skill of writing. Yeah. And then Egeneson says he believes writers are made. And even if you're born with inherent potential to write without practice, there isn't much difference with you and someone who hasn't written a word before. So what he's basically saying is, oh, let's imagine that, let me try to find someone's name here. Let's imagine that Adeola was born with the skill of writing and I wasn't. If he doesn't actually start writing, then there's really no difference between him and me, who wasn't born with the skill of writing, has never tried, and him who was born with that skill and never tried as well. So let me try to break this down. Football is one of the most popular games in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And in football, there are like tons and tons of players in different clubs and different countries, right? But then there are two people that almost everybody in the world know, regardless of their love for football or not, right? What that means is, even if they like football, they don't like football, they've probably heard of these two people's names before, right? And why is that? Because these people are like very, very good, like extremely very good. And I'm sure you already know who these people are, Messi and Ronaldo, right? So just think about the fact that everybody in the world knows these people so well because of how good they are at football. So let's imagine that Messi or Ronaldo were born with the skills of writing, with the skill of playing football rather. So let's imagine Messi never tried to kick a ball in his entire life. He never tried to kick the first ball when he was young, right? To see, oh, hey, this thing is actually cool. Or Ronaldo never tried to even kick it or whatever. Do you think those people would be where they are today? Can you please respond in the chat? So let me explain myself again. Let's assume Messi and Ronaldo are really, really good because they're like some of the best. We don't know if they were born or if they were not born with that skill. But if they did not try to kick the first ball whenever they did, let's say Messi kicked his own by 2 and Ronaldo kicked it by 3, do you think they would be known for who they are today? Also, I'm seeing a lot of no's, and that there will be no goods, okay? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's, and that definitely means that you all agree with me that they would not be who they are today. So that means that even if you're born with the skill of playing football, if you don't actually try to play football, there's no difference between you and me, who does not know how to play football, who believes that I wasn't born with the skill of playing football. I hope that makes sense. So even if I was born with the skill of writing and you were not, there's no difference between you and I if we don't actually put in the work to see whether or not we were born with that skill. So that's pretty much what Egeneson here saying. And then there's Dami as well, who says he can relate to Made. And he's like, oh, well, I've been writing a lot of articles and books so far. And he's definitely seen sorry, just give me a minute. And he has definitely seen how that has helped him so far in like his school and as a person generally. Oh, sorry, just give me 1 second. Be right back. Okay. All right, cool. Can you still hear me, please? Can you confirm you can still hear me?
Hold on.
Awesome.
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. I love this. Manuel just wrote something where he said, it's in writing, you know how to write. That's absolutely fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and continue. I don't know what's wrong with this slide. Cancel, please. All right, cool. So like I said, right, we've shared different things that people think about what writing is. And if you ask me, I wouldn't necessarily agree or disagree. I think, yeah, people can be naturally born with the skill of doing anything, right? There are people who coding comes a lot easier for them, and there are others who have to like really, really try to understand what they're trying to do. And that's like the truth, right? But then if you ask me, I know I wasn't born with the skill of writing. Like I know that for sure. And I'll tell you why I do. So there was a time in my life where I was very reluctant to share like my thoughts or like whatever thing I had to share, because I just thought I wasn't writing it in the right way, right? So you could be like in a meeting and they're like, oh, hey, Gideon, can you share your thoughts or whatever? And I'll just be like, I mean, I possibly had something interesting to say, but then I just wouldn't say that thing because I was worried about how I was going to type it out for people to see. Like, would they read this thing and be like, what's in the word this girl? Or would they be confused with what I was trying to say? And over time, I realized that was like making me lose lots and lots of opportunities, right? Because I wasn't sharing my thoughts. And I was like, I didn't want to continue this way. I wanted to be able to like move forward in life or like grow to some certain level. And I knew the only way that would change was if I like decided to be intentional about improving my writing. Yeah. So what I did was try to cut down on using short forms. So prior to this time, if you had sent me a message on social media or any platform at all, I'll probably respond to you in short forms, right? So instead of saying, how are you, which is HOWAREYOU, for how, I could probably use AW. And then for R, which is ARE, I'll just use the letter R. And then for you, which is YOU, I'll just use the letter U as well. That's how I used to type. But then I noticed that this was like literally affecting me because I was like, I think most times when you're like writing something serious, you won't even know when you've added like a short form inside it. Or sometimes I felt like I couldn't even spell simple words anymore because I was like so focused on like writing in short forms, right? So that was the first thing I decided to do. And in addition to that, I also bumped on this really interesting quotes that said, you only learn how to write by writing. So it made me realize that even though I stopped using all the short forms in the world, if I didn't actually start writing, then I would actually not become better at writing. So I decided to like write my first article, which wasn't great or the best, but I mean, it was a start. And because I did that, it enabled me to keep writing consistently over time and also reach the point where I am today. I wouldn't say I am like one of the best writers or whatever, but then I know that writing has definitely impacted my career as a software engineer in like tremendous ways, right? From like getting job opportunities because people have seen your work to making passive income, even like your main income stuff can even be from writing or getting accepted in like Google Summer of Code. There are like so many benefits that I've had from being able to write as a software developer. And I'll share some of those things there as well. All right, cool. So you'll probably be wondering, right, what are the skills you need to have to be a technical writer or to be someone who writes as a software engineer? Keep in mind that when I'm saying technical writer here, I'm not saying that you should completely quit your career as a software engineer and become a technical writer. But I'm saying that as a software developer, how can you use writing to push your career to the next level, to get the next job, to be known as someone who is really good at React because we're writing about React, or who is really good at PHP or whatever language or framework you're using? How can you use writing to get that extra edge over someone else who is just coding and not writing? And these are the skills you need to have. Also, it's important to note that these skills are not things you must have before you start. There are things you can learn in the process, right? Like coding, I bet you probably didn't know how to use a particular language until you started using it. And over time, you kept learning new things. So that's pretty much how writing is as well. So the first skill we're going to cover here is writing. I know it might feel weird. You probably feel like, oh yeah, writing and technical writing, what's the difference? But in truth, the first and most important skill every technical writer should have is the skill of writing, yeah? So how can you communicate? How do you share information with people? It doesn't have to be in a technical way. You don't have to give them direction or help them achieve something, but how are you communicating on like WhatsApp, on Twitter? Are you using short forms? Can you put words together and explain it for somebody to understand? That's the first thing you need to have. And I like to think everybody has that already because we can all speak English. I think we can all speak English and we can all communicate with people. So if you're worried, then mark this as a check because you already have the skill. But just to shed more light on the difference between writing and technical writing. Writing is, like I said, putting your thoughts down, like sharing something. But then technical writing is sharing that your thought, but also explaining why you think that thought is that way, right? Or helping somebody achieve a particular thing, right? That's what technical writing is. So if I want to say, oh, hey, this is how to use scroll trigger plugin in React. Technical writing is me saying, hey, this is how to use it, and these are the steps you need to follow in order to achieve it. So at the end of somebody reading that article, they should now be able to actually use scroll trigger plugin in React, right? So it's not just me telling you about scroll trigger, but it's me helping you achieve something, helping you reach a certain goal, or helping you understand something that you didn't understand or were not really clear about before you started reading that article. I wonder why this red line is here. I didn't think it's from my end. Or... All right, cool. So that's like the difference between writing and technical writing. And then the next important skill is audience perception. How do you know who your audience is and how do you use that information to make your writing better? So there are different kinds of audience, like beginners, experts, etc., right? And most often than not, people tend to say, okay, hey, I'm writing this article for a beginner, but then use words that are not helpful for that beginner. Or they could be like, oh yeah, I'm writing this article for experts, but then don't go straight to the point and ensure that the expert actually understands what they are trying to say. I don't know if that makes any sense. So it's always important to know what you're trying to say, what the goal is, and like how you're trying to do that. And these are the different ways you can like know if you are who your audience is. The first question you should ask yourself is, what do they need? What is this person trying to benefit or achieve from reading your article? Do they want to know how to, let's say, center a div? Or do they want to know how to use, what can I use? Like maybe how to use like semantic HTML, for instance. You need to understand what exactly do they need. If they're coming to learn how to center a div, then there's really no need for you to talk about the other part. Just focus on letting them know that, oh, hey, this is how you can actually center a div. And then the second one is like, where would they be reading? Would they be reading this stuff on their mobile phone or on their laptop, right? So trying to synthesize your articles to fit into people reading it via their mobile devices or reading it via their phones as well. So it's important to like keep those things in mind. And then you also need to like say, okay, hey, when will they be reading this article? Are they reading this article when they're like in a hurry, like trying to figure out something immediately, or are they reading it when they're trying to actually understand something carefully? If they want to solve something, then there's no need to beat around the bush. Just say, okay, hey, my guy, this is how to do it, right? But then if they want to understand something, then it means that you literally need to explain the thought process behind achieving that thing. So I'm not telling you, okay, hey, this is the JavaScript code, but I'm like, this is the JavaScript code, but then this is what that JavaScript code means. I don't know if that makes sense. And then it's like the why are they trying to do this and how are they trying to do this? So once you incorporate all these questions into your head, I mean, it might not be all of them, but then some of them you can easily identify, oh, hey, my target audience are beginners. And because you know they are beginners, it means that you can tailor the words to fit them, right? Or use the right words or sentences that would help them become better. Right, so to the next slide, I really have no clue why this stuff is acting this way. Let me just try to cancel and reshare and see what happens. Okay, all right, so the next thing you need to have is technical skill. Again, this is not poetry or fiction, it's technical writing, meaning that you need to have some certain level of skill before you start writing an article, right? So if you're writing about React.js, it means that you should be someone who have probably used React.js at least once or twice or whatever to be able to explain it. And it's important to note here that, like I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, technical writing or writing as a developer is not just about sharing knowledge. It's not just about telling people, hey, this is what I learned how to do, but it's also a great way for you to learn something better. I can't begin to count how many articles I started writing without knowing so much about it. But then at the end of writing that article, I was like more knowledgeable about it, right? So in order for you to share knowledge, you need to be able to understand something very well. So let's assume you probably didn't understand how to center a div. And you can now say, okay, hey, let me write an article about how to center a div. This would mean that you need to do lots of research, right? Let's say Google, ask your friends or whatever, and eventually come up with that article and like finish writing it for it to be a great article. When you publish that article now, people are like, oh yeah, awesome article. People benefit from that article. But awesome, people benefited from it, but then you also benefited from it because you now know how to center a div. And why do you know how to center a div? Because you started writing an article about it. So what I'm trying to say here is people think they need to be super smart to start writing. I'm here to break it to you that you don't need to be. I'm not saying you should go and pass wrong information to people though, but what I'm saying is writing is a great way to reinforce learning. It's a great way to become better at something. So if you're constantly writing about React, try to write about things you don't know about. And in the process of finishing up that article, you see that you're researching, you're asking questions, you're understanding things a lot more because you need to understand things well enough to explain it to other people. And in order for you to do that, you need to do whatever you need to do, which could involve research, to come up with that article. All right, cool. So next slide is, there's this interesting quote by Albert Einstein that says, if you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, then you probably can't understand, you don't understand it yourself. What that basically means that, yes, you don't have the technical skill, but then you can learn it in the process. And in order for you to explain it to a 6-year-old, it means you need to understand it very well. And the process of understanding it means that you now know something that you didn't know before you started writing the article. Awesome. And then the next thing you need to have is research. So we've talked about writing, we've talked about audience perception, we've also talked about technical skill. And like I mentioned, this technical skill must not be something you have before you start writing. I'm not saying you should be completely clueless, but I mean, you can't be if you want to be honest, because you would learn in the process. And the only way you can learn in the process is through research. So you want to start writing an article, you don't know about it, you research on it, you ask questions, you Google whatever, like whatever you need to. And that does not necessarily mean you need to like, okay, hey, I've researched, then you now copy somebody's thing and paste it on your article and say it's your own. Absolutely not. But then research, be inspired by what other people are writing, then try to explain them in your own words, because that's very, very important. So simply put, try to Google the hell out of things or ask people questions if you have that set of audience close to you. Then aside from that, I really wish I knew what's going on with the slides. I wish I did. Yeah, aside from that, another thing you need to always remember is trying to maintain your unique voice. So I feel like people get inspired by lots of people over time. You get inspired by this writer or the other writer, and we try to now incorporate the way they write into our writing style, which can be okay, but then most times we tend to lose our voice in the process. I'm going to explain further. So there was this time I wanted to write an article about getting started with the DOM. And if you're a web developer, you know that that is something, I mean, every web developer should know, to be honest, because it's like a very vital part of the ecosystem, most importantly for front-end developers. And because it's something everybody should know, it also meant that there were like so many resources about this thing, so many resources, right? So I was like, why is there a need to literally add this thing into the list of things that are already there? Why add one more article to the millions of articles that are across the world? Like, is that necessary? Is that important? And I was this close to not publishing that article, but I was like, oh, well, regardless of whether someone reads it or not, it's okay. probably in the future I need to remember what this thing means, right? And try to do it. So what I did was like, I still published the article regardless of the fears that I had. And interestingly, the article got like tons of like likes and retweets on Twitter, right? I think I got like over 100 plus followers that day just because of that article. And aside from that, you could see people comment things like, I've been trying to understand the DOM for quite some time. I read other articles, but it never really clicked for me until I read this your article, right? And it just made me realize that, wait, was this not something I was trying not to publish because I thought there were like so many resources out there? Like, why was I scared of doing that? So it made me realize that even though there are so many resources out there in the world, there are still people who don't understand something, right? So let's say there are 100 developers in the world. There are still about 50 of them who still don't understand what the DOM is, right? Regardless of the number of resources that are online. So what that basically means is, even though you want to write about the topic that has been written over and over again, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and do that because there's probably someone out there who is waiting to read it in your voice, the way you explain it before they finally understand something. And that's why you don't need to change your voice or who you are, because it's unique to a set of people. Let's assume me and John write the same article about something, and there are 100 people in the world. 100 people would, 50 out of that 100 would probably enjoy John's article, while the other 50 will enjoy my own article and understand my article, right? So that means I think in summary, it means that there is space for everybody in the world, regardless of the number of content you've seen about that particular topic. Feel free to write about it again in your own words, and you see that there are people who would still relate to it regardless. Right, so let's assume we want to get started with technical writing now that you've understood what it means and the skills you need to have. These are the steps you need to take. You need to take a technical writing course, read, start writing, and also stay consistent. I'll start with taking a technical writing course. I think this is something that is very much overlooked because people just like go ahead and write. But even after writing for quite some time, when I took this course, I learned so many things that I had no clue about, and I was like, damn, where has this been all my life? So what that means is there are people who have been writing for like 10 to 20 years who came up with these courses, and they have valid information that will help you write perfectly as a software developer. I totally recommend Google's technical writing course, which is on this slide. So if you have access to the link to the slide, you will to see the technical writing course. It's absolutely fantastic. You learn so many interesting things like adding introductions to your article, speaking to your developer audience effectively, tons and tons of awesome information. So I totally recommend checking it out if you can. And then the next thing you need to do is read. Reading is extremely very important as a software developer and as a person who wants to start writing a lot more, right? Because the more you read, the more you discover like new ways to express yourself, the more you learn new things, the more you understand stuff. And I really love this quote by Lisa Lee that says, read 1,000 books and your words will flow like a river. When you read a lot, you won't lack things to say. You literally learn new words. You like find better ways to talk about different things or even learn new things in general. So reading is extremely important as someone who wants to become better at writing. And then the third thing is writing. Like I always mentioned earlier, if you like, read all the documentation in the world or watch all the video tutorials in the world. If you don't actually code, you won't know how to code, right? You only learn how to do something by doing that thing. So even if you take the Google Technical Writing course and read a lot more, all of those things will not make sense if you don't actually start writing. So in all that you do, in all the skills that you're trying to achieve, it's awesome to read about them. It's awesome to take courses about them. But what's more awesome is actually doing those things. And that's similar to writing as well. So after you finish taking the technical writing course and also reading a lot more, try to write. Your writing might not be the best in the world, but I bet you that it's going to be good enough for someone or good enough for your future self. So in addition to, there's this awesome quote by Jean M that says, you learn to write by writing. And this was the quote that spoke to me as well when I started the journey. Regardless of whatever I did, yes, I stopped writing in short forms. Yes, I tried to express myself more, but none of those things change if I didn't actually start writing. And here are some tips I would share in regards to writing. I'd recommend following a style guide when doing that. This was also something I learned through that technical writing course, but then it's actually style guides that you can follow to become better, like structuring your words as a software developer. If you click on the link here, you'll be redirected to Google Style Guide, which explains, hey, this is how software developers understand something, this is how you should write. So if you're writing now, it means that any developer who reads your article would understand what you're saying. If you're a designer who is also writing, it means that other designers will understand what you're saying as well. Now, the second point is try to make your paragraph support a single idea. It's nice to put everything inside at once, sharp, but what's more awesome is ensuring that whatever you're writing about supports a single thing. So if your paragraph is about this book by James Clear, maybe one paragraph should be focused on chapter 1 and the other paragraph should be focused on chapter 2. You don't need to mix every single thing inside chapter 1 because it might make people confused and not really understand what you're saying. Third point is always remember that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So it's awesome that you know big words, that's fantastic, but think about your audience. Do they know the words that you're using? Will they understand what you're saying? And try to use as many simple words as possible because that's absolutely important. Now, the fourth thing is when you write a first draft is the first thing you write, literally. When you write a first draft, always try to read your content out loud while assuming you're the reader. So let's assume this was the first draft of an article that I wrote. I would say, learn to follow a style guide while writing. It helps to stay on track and follow the best writing practices or principles rather. So doing what I just did now would mean that I'm literally pretending to be the reader, right? So I'm literally pretending to be anybody who comes to this article to read it. And in that way, I would see things that I can change or see things that might be confusing to people and try to fix those things in the process. So it's always important to read out your work and pretend you're like the reader. Okay, other tips. Try to edit your first draft when you're focused. So let's say you've written the first draft and you just want to edit everything sharp. Try to take some time off, like a few hours or a few minutes, and come back when you're a lot more refreshed. That would help you see things that you probably didn't spot at first. And then try to consult or get feedback from experts in the field and also from people who know how to write. So if you're writing an article about CSS, for instance, or whatever programming language or framework you use, try to send that article to somebody else who is also known in that field. Your friend, your colleague, someone you look up to, whoever, because chances are you probably missed something or misinterpreted something or explained something in the wrong way. And the only person that will help you spot that is someone who is also knowledgeable about that thing you're writing on. And after the person has shared feedback with you, try to read that article again, which that's what proofreading means. Try to proofread the article one more time to be sure that everything has been written correctly, and then publish the article. The next thing is staying consistent. It's just like coding again as well. If you write one line of code this month and write the next one 6 months after, then you're not really going to be a software developer, if you ask me, because coding is something you have to do consistently in order for you to remember it or like understand how it works generally. So try to ensure that you are doing that. You are consistently writing. It could be once in a month or once in 2 months, whatever works for you, but try to do that at a consistent basis. If you decide to write once in 2 months, then ensure that you keep writing once every 2 months, because that would help you improve your writing skill over time. And there's this quote by Claude, who isn't here, but then it basically said that, hey, when you write, it may not be the best thing at first, but if you keep writing over time, you'd see how better you can express yourself or how you're like doing other things in more efficient ways. Sorry, just give me a second. How you're doing other, oh shit. Sorry, you see how your writing is improving over time, and that will help you become better. I wonder where these red lines are coming from again. I don't know if it's just on my screen or something's happening. But hey, these are some career opportunities you can get as a software developer who is writing, or as someone who just wants to focus on technical writing. According to Glassdoor, again, these slides were made some months back, so it's a bit, I'm sure the number must have increased by now. But according to Glassdoor, technical writers make between $40,000, $80,000 annually on an average. So average, like you already know, it's like the least number of people. So you can actually make so much more than that. And aside from that, there are like companies who pay people between $100 to even like over $2,000 to write just one article. And that's awesome because it can be like a great way for you to make money as a software developer in Nigeria. So imagine if you're writing for LogRocket that pays $250 per article. It means that $250 is like, I'm not sure, but it's over 100K plus, if I'm not mistaken. So imagine if you can write like 2 articles every month for LogRocket. It means that you probably make, that means you make like $700 in that month. And $700, let me try to calculate how much that would be in Naira. So the exchange rate is currently 518. So $700 is 362,000 Naira. So you can make 260,000 Naira from writing just 2 articles. And this is like LogRocket, the people that will pay you 2K, people that are paying 1K. 1K, by 1K, I mean $1K, not 1K Naira, obviously, to write an article. Yeah. And this is just fantastic because sometimes the article you're writing might be something that you didn't really know about. But after you finish writing that article, you're not just making money, but then now you understand that subject a lot better. I think an instance would be, there's this article I wrote about scroll trigger plugin with React, yeah? And the reason why I wanted to write that article was because I was trying to learn how to use scroll trigger in React. And I searched online and I didn't see any article about that thing, right? And it was like frustrating because I didn't know how to use it. I was actually trying to learn how to do that stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I can write an article about this on LogRocket because I bet there's someone else in the world trying to learn how to use scroll trigger in React as well. And before I started writing that article, like I had no clue how to use scroll trigger in React. I mean, I knew about GSOC, right? But then I also never used it as well. It was just something that I saw and admired people's demos of like really interesting animations. It was something I'd always wanted to learn. And I was like, while you're trying to learn this thing, why not make money in the process, right? So this is me now learning how to use scroll trigger plugin in React, now learning about how to even create animations with GreenSock for the first time, then writing an article and making $250 from that article. And as if that was not enough, the article now got featured by GreenSock, that's the actual owner of Scroll Trigger, on their official blog, right? So that is like getting money, now understanding how to use something, then also getting extra visibility for doing that thing. And of course, sharing stuff like that on like Twitter gets you recognition, which builds your brand, right? And also improves your chances of getting like better jobs or meeting a potential employer or whatever the case is. So these are some of the benefits you could get from writing as a software developer. Writing just code is perfect, it's awesome, it's good, but I bet you that writing code and also writing about what you're learning or what you're experiencing is a lot better. It gives you lots and lots more opportunities than you would get from just focusing on writing code alone. And aside from that, there's also a program named Google Season of Dot that connects technical writers to open source organizations to enable them write for that open source organization and also make money in the process. So all you need to do is like create a proposal, make some contributions, and then they accept you. So I got accepted into this program in like, I think 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And I got paid $3,000 to contribute to VLC. And then the interesting thing about this, aside from the money, was that Vlc Media Player, I like to think most of you know about VLC. That app we used to play any kind of music or any kind of video, whatever. This was like an application that I've been using since I was a child. Well, when I say child, it means, well, like since I was in like, what's that stuff called? I think secondary school. I don't think I started using it in primary. I said since I was like secondary school, I've always used VLC like for that long. So the fact that I could now contribute to this organization and now like talk with the president, talk with other team members because I was contributing was absolutely wild for me, to be honest. And if that wasn't enough, you now have like actual relationships with these people. I can literally just send a DM to the president of VLC and he knows who I am. He would respond to me, right? I could say, hey, can you help me write a recommendation about my technical writing skill and submit it to a job? Anybody who sees that the president of VLC, which has been used by over 3 billion people, is recommending me, would definitely give me the job or definitely want to hear me out to know what skills that I have. So yes, I started out as just like writing articles here and there, but then there are lots of benefits that you can get from this thing. And this is just like a tiny bit of my story, or like some of the benefits that I've had. But there are tons and tons and tons of benefits that you can get. Since after 2019, the money here eventually increased over time. I think as of last month, there were companies paying people like $15,000 to write. That's like 5K every month for 3 months to write, to contribute to their documentation. And this is awesome, to be honest. 5K is over 2 point something million naira. So imagine making 2 point something million naira every month because you're contributing to a company's documentation. And after that, you now have these people in that company as friends or colleagues, people that can always reach out to, people that can always get recommendations from. And sometimes these companies even like make you stay back as a contractor. So like in my case, Vlc, after I finished my Google Season of Docs program, I eventually now worked for them. Like they were literally paying me every single month to contribute to their iOS documentation. So those are like things that you could benefit. This is not me trying to make any miles or whatever, because it's small compared to what other people have done. But then it's me saying that I don't think my career or my life as a software developer would have been the same if technical writing wasn't involved, because it hasn't just helped me make money, it's also helped me understand new things, learn new things, be known in the community, like connect to other people and so much more. So I think it's absolutely fantastic, and you should try it out if you want to, something you're interested in. All right, so in conclusion, technical writers have the great benefit of becoming lifelong learners, because it means they have to be well-versed in a skill in order to explain it to other people. So if I consistently keep writing about PHP, it means that over time, I would know a lot more about PHP than I knew before I started writing. And aside from that, I'll also be known in the community as someone who knows PHP very well. Aside from that too, an employer can reach out to me and say, oh, hey, Didi, I bumped into your PHP article and I think it's fantastic. I'd love you to write about it on maybe our blog or even join our company, right? Those are like things you can benefit. So aside from being a lifelong learner, technical writers benefit tons of other things. But then the most important thing is they become lifelong learners because they need to be well-versed in the skill they're writing about, and in order to communicate it effectively to other readers. I'm going to end with this awesome quote by Chinua Achebe that says, I believe that a good writer doesn't need to be told anything except to keep at it. So if you decide to start writing today, one advice from the awesome Chinua Achebe is to keep at it. You write one article today because you probably like this talk, that's awesome, but you won't get the benefits if you don't keep writing consistently. So do try to do that. Thank you so much for joining this session once again. If you have any questions, this would be a good time to turn on your mic to ask the question, or you can just like drop it in the chat. You could follow me on Twitter, where I share stuff, mostly sharing stuff about Kubernetes right now, but I do share things about blogging most of the time. Yeah, you can also check out my blog at edidiongasikpo.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Edidiong, for that wonderful presentation. Wow, that was so much. That was power packed. Thank you so much. We would like to have questions and answer. I don't know if anybody have questions and answer. If you can't unmute yourself or you're having issues with your mic, you can type in the chat box. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Amarachi. I have a question. Okay, I just wanted to know, at what point do you think that someone could have should be confident enough to say he or she has gained experience writing in order to apply for perhaps freelance gigs or companies that kind of pay you to write? I mean, we all write every day, and I'm just saying, are there pointers to perhaps how good one may be, or the confidence level that one should, arrive at before trying to apply for, technical writing gigs or, stuff like that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say I would say there is no one size fits all in this case. That means there is no specific amount of time you need to write to qualify, or you don't need to write like 10 articles first to qualify. There's really nothing that works in every single case. So it could be specific to different people. Edidiong could probably have to write 100 articles before she can get accepted to these agencies. And Amara would just have to write 5 really great articles and still get accepted to these agencies. But to answer your question, I would say that you mentioned something about we all write every day. By that, do you mean, oh, hey, we all send people messages on WhatsApp every day because that's what writing is? But are you specifically saying we all write technical articles every day? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, for me, basically, my job requires it.
Okay,
besides, I have attempted it on Medium and on other free platforms where people are allowed to write.
Awesome. I lost you there for a bit, but awesome. All right, yeah, so what that basically means is, yeah, people write lots. Most people, I think it's just how life is, right? Sometimes people, a set of people achieve things faster than other people. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, hey, you need to write like 100 articles. Since you've already written a good number of articles, like you said, there's nothing stopping you. Don't wait till you feel confident enough, right? Go ahead and apply. The chances are they'll probably say no, but then they'll most likely say yes as well. So the only thing stopping you from applying is yourself, you feeling that maybe you're not good enough or they may not accept you. The truth is you never really know that until you actually apply. So whether you're good enough or you're not good enough, it means that you need to apply to get that answer. And even when they don't accept you, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means that maybe they already have someone who is creating those kind of contents for them, or you have to reach out to another set of platform. So I'm going to send the link here, which has like different communities and companies that pay people to write for them. So you could apply to as many as possible. Chances are one of them would respond. And then the other one is just writing and being so good that people literally send you an email and say, hey, would you love to write for us? There's like 2 ways. So if they don't eventually send a DM to you and say, hey, would you love to write for us? You can be the one to go and say, sorry, no vex. I can write. I am very good. And it's not just saying, oh, I can write. You need to like sell yourself. You need to say, hey, you can write. Yeah, like in my case, I literally said, so like in 2019, when I got accepted into the Google Season of Docs program, I was like the only African. Every other person there was no other, I was like the only person. So if I said things like, hey, my name is Edidiong Asikpo, I was the only African who got accepted into the Google Season of Docs program. I've written for VLC, I've written for Free Code Camp, I write on my personal blog. Oh my, you guys accept me now. Why won't you accept me? So you need to sell yourself. Even if you have written 100 articles, tell them, my name is Amara, and I've written over 100 articles doing this, and that. They would accept you. Right? They are literally looking for people every day, so they will definitely accept you. So you need to sell yourself. You need to, even if you don't believe in yourself, pretend to believe in yourself as you're typing that message. Show them that you are literally good at that thing. You may not be so good at it, but you will learn in the process. But my point is, when you're trying to apply for whatever it is you're trying to apply, sell yourself in a way that when someone sees whatever you're sending, they will be like, nah, if we don't accept this girl or guy, then we're totally missing out.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That really got me pumped up. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Next on the line, we'll take Olumide. Olumide, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Good evening.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, Didi. Thank you for your presentation. It was really motivating and inspiring. My question is, take for example, I am a software developer and I also do technical writing on the side. So my question is, am I supposed to have like 2 separate CVs, right? Like 2 separate resumes for maybe my life as a software developer or my life as a technical writer, so that when I want to maybe apply for technical writing positions, I'll just like forward my technical writing CV, and maybe when I want to apply for software development position, how do I balance both, or can I just like jam pack every single thing on my single CV? Like, I'm a technical writer, I'm also a software developer, and so on and so forth. Like, what do you think is the best way to go, coupled with what you already said now, like selling myself and putting myself out there and so on and so forth? Yeah, thank you.
Cool. That's a great question. I will put it to you that every company appreciates someone who knows how to express themselves or who knows how to write. So even if you're a core software engineer and you don't even write technical articles, but the way you send emails, for instance, the way you explain what you did in a week in words, right? The way you communicate to people, it's very, very vital. Like, it's very, very important. People love people who can do those things because not every software engineer can do them. So my advice to you would be to not have two CVs. If you're applying for a technical writing role and someone sees that you've been a software engineer, trust me, you have a higher edge over someone who has just focused as a technical writer. Because one of the skills you need to have to be a technical writer is a technical skill. So if you've been like a front-end engineer, right, writing about awesome stuff in front end, and you've also actually built like core front-end products, yeah, and then you're applying for a technical writing role that is focused on, let's say, like the front-end side of a product or a company, you definitely have an edge over someone who just has the technical writing background, right? Because you are not just writing, you actually know what you're writing about. You won't have to be bugging all the engineers in the company to say, hey, Afana, help me explain this front-end thing. They know you know this front-end thing because you actually build those front-end products. So it gives you like a higher edge. If you're applying for a technical writing role, please go ahead and add the technical writing and the software engineering. And even if you're like applying for a software engineering role, adding the technical writing side, the articles you've written is also extremely very important because it shows them that you know this thing well enough to explain it to other people. I don't know if that makes sense. People who share knowledge, people who explain things, it's not that they are like really, really smart or super, super perfect. I won't say I'm like super smart, to be honest, but there are people who go out of their way to put themselves out there. People who love teaching, people who love sharing knowledge. And recruiters like those things. Employers like those things. They like people who would want to help other people become better in the company. And if you're already doing that as a writer outside, it means that you definitely do when you come into the company, right? Probably help them with their documentation or help them write better API documentation or something. So in summary, it's a plus for you if you ask me. And I think you should always merge both of them. I'm not saying you should make your CV super complex, but merge really important things into it. There's no need to separate it into two, if you ask me.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Can I just ask a follow-up question to this?
Sure, this time.
Okay. So there is this common, let's say, thing that happens, like you are looking for a job, you want to apply for a job, and people ask you, what have you done? Even though, like, let's assume I'm a newbie into technical writing, I'm pumped, your presentation went well, I want to achieve great things like you also. But let's assume I don't even have any article yet, but I just want to start writing. So when is the best time to start applying? Because some people say you don't really need to have a lot of experience before applying nowadays. Just put yourself out there and maybe learn on the job. So, but for some applications, they require like, okay, what have you published? What have you written? How do you go about that kind of situation when you don't have much yet and you want to apply?
Well, I would say the goal is for you to try and have much, right? So people probably took 10 years for them to get 100 articles. But then there are other people who took 2 months to get that same 100 articles. There are people who, let's say Twitter, for instance, there are people who have had to be on Twitter for like over 3 years before they had their first 10K followers. But there are other people doing it in 1 month, right? So they don't, like, most time people don't really care about, I mean, I know, to be honest, there's like a lot of people who care about like, okay, hey, you have to be in this thing for a certain number of years before they see that you're good enough and all those stuff. But then blog worker, for instance, you just need to show them 3 really great articles that you have written. They don't care if you have written 100. Show them 3 or 5 or 6 that are really, really good. Do you understand? They will not go to go and like start looking at your background to see, has this guy been writing for 10 years? They don't really care about that. They need to see whatever you're showing, let it be good enough. I don't know if that makes sense. People like to think that, oh, hey, they need to be like really good in something or have spent lots of time in a particular thing before they try to achieve goals. But it's not always the case. I think no matter how small you've achieved, try to ensure that whatever that thing is good enough. It's really, really good that someone will still give you a chance to try to do other things or maybe learn in the process because they've seen that this other one is good or this other one has potential, right? So in my case, for instance, I currently work at a Kubernetes focused company. And before I joined that company, I literally had no clue what Kubernetes was. I mean, I know what it was like on a very high level of review. I knew that this thing was awesome and I've always found it fascinating, but I didn't have like the core skills of a Kubernetes engineer. But they could literally see, in fact, they reached out to me, first of all, and then they could literally see that, oh, hey, this girl does not have Kubernetes, but she had like other skills, right? Like community work, other front-end related skills. And they were willing to still like take a chance on me based on the other information that they had, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is if you have 5 articles and you want to apply, please go ahead and do so. If you can make it 10, that's fantastic. But making it 10 is not what guarantees that you'll be accepted. Because as much as people like quantity, they also want quality as well. So if you have 3 really great articles, right, chances are they'll probably accept you because of that. They don't need to see it be 10. So you don't need to wait till you're like maybe 1 year into it or whatever. You can try to take a faster pace. I've seen people reach like 100K followers on Twitter in just like span of 6 months. And then there's like other people who are like staying there for years and they've still not even reached 10K followers. And these people who have reached this 100K followers in the span of 6 months now tend to achieve lots more. They get like sponsorships, they get jobs, they get so many things because they're consistently putting themselves out there, even if they don't know what they're doing, even if they're still trying to figure things out. There are people who join web development today. Tomorrow, they're already sharing about what they know about this, what they know about that. They don't know every single thing yet, and they're not waiting till they do. They are like using that information that they currently have to get what they currently want.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Other questions? We don't have much time and we are exceeding more than 1 hour, 30 minutes here. So I think I'll go to the chat box now and mention some few questions. We have a question here. She said, most companies I see these days always ask about some years of experience. How do I handle this? I don't know if, I think Didi has answered this indirectly. Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so she said, next question is, please can you recommend online plagiarism tools I can use to check my unique art writings? We'll be having a session on technical writing resource and materials. I don't know if Didi have her own tool, she can maybe type it in the chat box or just tell us, then we move to the next question.
Yeah, I think Grammarly is great. So I'll just send a link to Grammarly on the chat now.
All right, thank you. So the next question is, the site I write for doesn't credit writers' names on the site. So I would like to, and how will I be able to sell myself in such case for another platform I'm applying for? I think that's like ghostwriting. I think Didi, if you have something, you can tell us about that.
That's interesting. I don't think you necessarily sell yourself using those articles, because the reason why those companies wanted you to write without putting your name is because that's what they want. They want to portray themselves as the owners of those articles. So I think you should write on your personal blog. I mean, still do ghostwriting is awesome if that's what you want. But then if you want to sell yourself to another set of company or whatever, then you should write on places that your name is actually there. If you can't find any of those places, then it could be like using your own blog. You could create a blog on Hashnode, Dev.to, Medium, whatever platform you like, and start writing articles there. Could also apply. So if you're able to write like 3 really good articles on your personal blog, could apply to Free Code Camp to be a writer. They would most likely accept you. They don't pay you, but then you get visibility. and you write, let's say you now write like 3 articles on Free Code Camp, yeah? So Free Code Camp has a fantastic technical writer who helps you edit your articles. So after she edits those articles, she publishes it. And then if you can get like 3 on Free Code Camp, then you can now send those people 6. 3 from Free Code Camp, 3 from a personal blog. Almost everybody knows Free Code Camp. So if they see that you're writing on Free Code Camp, it means that you have an edge over someone who is just writing on their blog. So that can be helpful.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is also, is it possible when I write an article and it looks like another article that I have not read, and what should I do about this? I don't really understand this question.
Yeah,
maybe if you can rephrase it. Yeah. So the best site to host your technical writing resume, is it Google? Is Google Docs cool? Google Docs? Didi, can you answer that?
Sorry, best site for your resume, Google Docs. I mean, I honestly use Google Docs for mine, but I mean, I download it as a PDF and then send it. So yes, of course, you can use Google Docs. There are a couple of other fun, interesting ones, which I don't know about because I use Google Docs. But yeah, Google Docs is absolutely fine too.
Okay, next question. Does writing frequently ask questions makes he or she a technical writer?
Sorry, please, can you come again?
He asks that does writing frequently asked question makes him a technical writer?
Anything that make you, well, I won't, that's interesting. Well, is that the only thing you write? I mean, it means that it definitely does, to be honest. It makes you a technical writer, because technical writing is helping someone achieve something, giving instructions or direction or explaining. So FAQs are like literally giving instructions on how to achieve certain things. So yes, it definitely makes you a technical writer. You can decide to further it and not just focus on FAQs and try maybe technical articles or contributing to other sections of the documentation or project you're working on instead of just the FAQ. But yes, it definitely makes you a technical writer.
Next question. He asked, in writing technical articles, must code snippets be included?
It's not a must, but then it's usually recommended. And again, it depends on what you're writing on. Are you writing an article? Technical articles are not always super, like they're not always, it must not always be about a language or framework. It can just be about something else. So if that thing doesn't require you to add a code snippet, then please do not. But if you're writing about React or CS or whatever it is, if it's actually about a programming language or framework or whatever that is code related, please try to add the code snippet, because it enables your reader to quickly try out what you're trying to do, like not just reading about it, but actually getting practical knowledge about what you did. And please, when you do that, don't add pictures of the code snippets. You can just add the code directly, or you use platforms like CodePen or Code Sandbox to share your code snippet instead of using pictures. Pictures are not recommended, because your users won't be able to copy the code snippets to test stuff out.
Okay, thank you. I think Alex has a question. Alex, if you can hear me, you can ask a question, then we would round up.
Okay, sorry about the noise in where I am. I think it's been partly answered, but I wanted to ask, what platforms would you recommend? Free platforms where you can get started as a technical writer. That's how you post your articles.
We are not hearing you.
I think
Alex
said what
platform?
Please, can you type it in the chat box, Alex? Please, the noise is too loud. Just type it in the chat box.
But I think what he meant was other platforms where you could write as a beginner. I'm not sure, but something like that. But whenever he types, then we could answer.
Okay. Yes. So we have one question. He said, what I meant, or I write article, but I later found out that there are other articles already published that look similar to his. I wrote, and what should I do? Okay, what he's asking is he wrote an article and he found out that there were other people that wrote the same article like his. So he's asking, should he scrap it or do something else?
By same article, do you mean the same topic
Maybe title.
or the same
Yeah.
content. Can you please confirm? Maybe turn on your mic if you can, or just like send a message. Yes to which one? Same content or same title?
You said
Both.
both.
Well, I can't, by same content, maybe they have something similar. They can't literally use the exact same words you used, except the person copied you or you copied the person. But I can't think of the chances where someone's article is identical to yours when you didn't see their article. Yes, it might be similar because we are talking about the same thing, or people will have like the same train of thoughts. But as long as you didn't copy the person, then there's absolutely no need for you to take the article down, because you literally just wrote it from like based on what you thought, right? So you shouldn't take it down. Maybe try to incorporate better ways to like explain yourself so it doesn't seem similar to that person's own, but I don't think you should take it down.
Okay, thank you for that. What Alex was trying to ask was the idea platforms he could write like as a beginner.
Yeah. So there's like Hashnode, right? So even though Hashnode lets you create your personal blog from scratch, it also has like a community. So that means it's basically giving you like visibility from like day zero, right? So if you publish an article on Hashnode, even if you don't have a good number of followers on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever platform, you can still get views on those articles. So there's Hashnode, there's Dev.to, there is Medium, and a couple of other ones. But those are like the three ones that I know that are more developer focused. So I would encourage you to maybe look at all three of them and try it out.
Okay. Thank you. I think any other question? Okay, I think Karim wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay. I think that's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was one that asked the question in the chat box about FAQ. So I worked with a team some times ago where they had an LMS system for schools. So when I came on board, I noticed that they didn't have any FAQ. So I brought up the idea, and the CTO charged me to like create and build an FAQ for them. So when I was done, like I got a lot of feedback from fans. They were happy, like their clients, the schools that used it, they were like, oh, we have been waiting for this. So and now like we did a review within the engineering team, and some people from the creative department, design, they were like saying I should have like plugged in a video for each module. You know that a school management system has module admissions, so different stuff. So they were like, one of the feedback they gave me then was that I should have plugged in like a video for each module. That okay, because I was able to like simplify that. Oh, if you want to achieve this in just like 3 steps, I was explaining it, and I made that explicit admin and use like simple words, because I was really targeting my audience, because I know that these people that want to use this product, they are not tech savvy, they are not tech inclined. So I have to just like explain the detail and the nitty-gritty of the whole stuff. So I want to ask that, is it really necessary? But I still went on to do like a tutorial video for each module for that particular school management system, and I uploaded it to like on YouTube, because they had a channel. But I didn't plug in a video, like a video snippet where they can click on the video and see how to perform a particular function on a module. So I want to ask that, is it compulsory like that I have to, maybe maybe I'm writing an FAQ for a particular product now, that I have to include like a short video, like, or a clip on each section I'm explaining. So that's what I just want to get. Thank you very much.
Cool. I think it's really amazing that you brought up the conversation about creating an FAQ for the company you worked for when you saw that there was none. That's really fantastic to hear. But yes, I actually stand with you on this. It's not, FAQs are meant to be super easy, like, hey, I want to do this, read the FAQ, you understand it, and then you move. So I don't think videos should be added to FAQs, to be honest. Like, you don't necessarily need to like specifically create videos and add under each of those sections. That's what the writing is for. And the goal of an FAQ is for people to like quickly read it and quickly understand what you're saying. However, different companies want different things. So if your company wanted you to add videos, then I think instead of literally pasting the video there, maybe adding a link to it might help, because as much as writing is awesome, there are people who prefer watching videos over writing, people who love visual content over just like reading stuff, right? So you don't want to only work with the audience that like writing. So you could add like a line that says, hey, if you prefer to watch how to do this in a video, click here, right? So they now get redirected to YouTube and watch it. That way, the video is not literally on the FAQ per se, but then the video content is still there in case someone wants or would prefer to watch a video over just reading.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. We'll take two more questions. One question from our YouTube live stream. He asked, he said, Didi, how did you get into programs such as Google Summer of Dogs? I don't know, but she talked about it. Maybe he came late. Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, how did I get into it? I applied. So there's even though things have changed a lot since then, but I'm going to share an article with you. And I wrote an article on Bootcamp about the process and some of the things that I did that I think probably helped me get accepted. But what they pretty much want to say is that you've been writing previously, right? So it means that you need to show proof that you're a writer. That's like technical articles, open source contributions that you've done as a writer, or whatever it is you can show. That they basically need proof that you've been writing before you apply. So after you've shared that proof, the other thing is to just pitch yourself to the organization, right? Tell them why you think you're the best person for the role. It means that all of these organizations usually have specific projects they want you to work on. So it's really understanding what that project is about, explaining it to them in your own way, so they see that, oh, hey, this girl or guy actually understands what we were trying to achieve. And once you do that, it means that you won't necessarily have to be asking them plenty of questions, even though asking questions are great, but it means that you have an overall sense of what they're trying to do. So it's going to be a lot easier for them and for you as well. So yeah, those are the things I kept in mind. I don't know if I was trying to say something. I didn't hear him. Okay. Can anybody still hear me? So I can go ahead and answer the next question.
Loud and clear, I can hear you.
All right, cool. So I can see a question from Hex D, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, no, there's one from Olabode that says, please, can you talk about remote work as a technical writer? What should you expect as regards job requirements, working hours, remuneration, etc., and how likely is it for a foreign company to employ a Nigerian? So I've the only time I worked as a technical writer was for Vlc, which was mostly on a contract basis. So I haven't really worked as a core technical writer. I mean, even at that time, I was still working as a developer advocate for Hashtag when I was doing that contract stuff. But for working hours, it's just like every other job. 8 hours per day, or for full time. If you want part-time, then it probably means 4 hours per day or 3 hours per day, like I do for VLC. And then for remuneration, it depends on what you want, what you think you are worth, and how much there's really no, again, there's no one size fits all. It depends on your skill. So if you think you're worth $40K or $80K or $100K, whatever you think you're worth, and they also need to see that you are worth that thing, because most companies like to say, okay, hey, because you're in Nigeria, I won't pay you as much. But you need to put it to them that because you're in Nigeria does not mean that you won't contribute as much as the person who is in another country. Yeah, that you understand the pay, whatever, but you also believe that you deserve this particular amount of money, and you would work, and they would work based on that if they actually wanted to come on board. The likelihood of foreign companies hiring a Nigerian, I think it's high. Right now, it's not really about where you live, but it's about you know that there are lots of people who are working remotely right now, and there are a lot more people who will join in the future. But it means that Nigerians are more open to lots of opportunities in tech. Even though people have spoiled the names of Nigerians across the world, there are so many people that know that the tech ecosystem in Nigeria is very valuable, and they're really, really smart and amazing people. So I don't think a company hiring from Nigeria, I mean, there are still companies that will want to hire from Nigeria, to be honest. For the company I currently work for, I was the first Nigerian and African they hired. But then it means that, oh, hey, if I do a good job, which I hope I would, they would probably want to hire another person from this side of the world. So trust me, there are companies who are willing and open to hire lots of Nigerians because they know that we are really smart and focused set of people. So I don't think that will be a problem. I hope that answers your question. So the next question by Hex D, we've definitely gone out of time. I was not supposed to stay for this long. Is it better to write on a lot of platforms or just focus on a few platforms? I really don't know, to be honest. It can be anything. The more platforms you write for, the more visibility you get. So there's really no focus on two. It depends on what you can do, right? So in my case, I just started to focus on like Free Code Camp and my personal blog, and highlighted other open source contributions I had made. So you can decide to do 2 or 3. It depends on your energy. I knew I didn't have the time because I was like still working as a software engineer and then still doing other stuff. So you try to do what works for you and what fits into your time schedule. If you believe you can write 3 articles in a month, then awesome, write for as many as possible. If you think you can just do 1, then that's absolutely fantastic as well. The next question is by Temi Dyer, which says, how many years have you been writing DD before you applied for Google Season of Docs? To be honest, I think I started writing started becoming I shared how my story was and how I thought I wasn't really good at writing until I started. So it would be sometime early 2018. That's when I decided to be more intentional about writing. So Google Season of Docs was like in 2019, either August, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it was pretty much like 1 year before that time. But again, even though it was 1 year, I did make a lot of contributions to like different open source organizations as a technical writer, from like Open Data Kit, Wikimedia, which owns MediaWiki that we use all the time. So like a couple of other organizations like that. So even though it was 1 year and some months, I was constantly trying to write articles, contribute to open source and whatever. So I think that this just speaks to what I said previously, that there's really no specific amount of time you need to keep writing for in order to apply for things. If you do it for 2 months, you can still get it. You just need to show that you understand what you're doing. So there's really no time frame. But if you ask me, what I did for my time was just like a year and a couple of months. Okay, how do you get access to open source contributions? I'm not sure I understand. Are you asking how you can find a project to contribute to? I would say checking GitHub or just Googling open source contributions. All right, I wrote an article about how technical writers can contribute to open source. So just give me a second to find that. Technical writers can okay. Contribute, just give me 1 second, trying to Google it, open source. Okay. All right, cool. So I just sent the article. If you want to explore the open source route, then you could check out that article and read it. Yeah, I think that's all the questions. I don't think I can answer any other question anymore.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
The pleasure is ours.
thank you so much for coming, for gracing this event. We truly honor your presence, and we are so happy to have you. Thank you so much. I think the Q&A was interesting too, like the talk. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next time and having more of our talks. Thank you, Edidiong, for coming.
Sure, thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, so guys, thank you for coming. We'll be wrapping up the meeting now. We spent about an hour and a half. See you guys tomorrow. Don't forget to join the meeting by this time tomorrow, by 5:30. We'll be talking about how to write a technical article. Please, it promises to be very great. We will be having Faye Sapiano from Scotland. She would be giving that talk. Please, don't miss it. Yeah, thank you so much. So you can now leave the meeting. I will end the meeting right now.